You are listening to Power Marketing with Kevin Lee. Kevin and his agency Did It have helped thousands of businesses win through superior marketing, as have his books, articles, speaking engagements, and the E-Marketing Association Power Marketing podcasts. Here's Kevin.
I'm pleased to be here today with Tigist Ketema from Cogency Global. She runs digital marketing for them. And so that people can get a context of sort of what your day-to-day looks like, can you give us sort of the elevator pitch of what Cogency does?
Sure. Thanks for having me here, Kevin. So Cogency Global is in the compliance space, and we provide different kinds of corporate and legal services to law firms, nonprofits, corporations, and financial institutions. We've been around for over 40 years. And at the moment, we have 14 offices. We're always adding offices. So this probably by the time this is published, this will be outdated. But we have, I think, like 11 to 12 offices in the US. And we also have an office in London, in Hong Kong, and Singapore. And as you said, I look after digital marketing, international digital marketing, and I've been with the company for 6 years. And in that time, we've gone through a major rebrand. We used to be called National Corporate Research. I actually have a funny story about that, which I can tell you later when we talk about the commercials. 4 years ago, we rebranded to Cogency Global because we were expanding globally. And that's where we are today.
Great. Well, for the E-Marketing Association, we've obviously got B2B marketers and B2C marketers, all of whom are getting educated on best practices. And so you guys obviously also do B2 charities. So I'd love to have you sort of compare and contrast, in your opinion, sort of how they're the same and how they're different as you're reaching out to these audiences.
Yeah, this is something I think about a lot, the difference between B2B to B2C, because a lot of the conferences and the resources that are available to me as a marketer are geared towards B2C, at least a lot of the fun, flashy stuff that I kind of want to use for us as well. And I've come to realize, of course, there are differences, but I think there are more similarities between the two now. I've heard it said somewhere, it's actually H to H now, it's human to human. So one thing I really think about in my seat as a marketer for a very serious and like stiff kind of industry is that I'm talking to people at the end of the day. And, historically, I think you would have said that the B2B customer is more savvy. You have to educate them a lot. They're probably more critical. But I would argue the B2C customer is that way as well, because as consumers, we're more informed. We just have a lot of information available to us. And we also demand more of the brands that we buy from. So even if you're buying a bar of soap, you're going to want to know what the company stands for. You want to know the supply chain is clean. There are a lot of demands that you're making of that company, even though your investment, at least financial investment, isn't that great. And that, of course, applies to B2B, because if we're asking you, or if a B2B company is asking for like $1 million contract, it's not as easy as showing an ad and then saying, okay, buy this from us now. You're in it for the long game, and you have to do a lot of nurturing. So, of course, the tactics are different, and maybe the language you use is different. The website experience is different. If it's B2B, you go to the website and you fill out the form and someone contacts you. Whereas if it's B2C, it's more transactional. But ultimately, what I have found is I've used a lot of the B2C tactics and strategies for us, and it's worked really well. And it's actually helped us become more of who we are as a company. And I know you have more questions for me, and I'm spending a lot of time on this question. But as a company, we're down to earth, we're knowledgeable, we know what we're talking about, but we're also very personable. And using a lot of like the branding techniques, a lot of the B2C strategies, I've been able to really showcase our customers that, and it's done wonders for us.
Great. Well, you've got a couple of different target markets, but they're pretty specific. So how do you discourage conversions from folks who are not in your target market, who would actually potentially distract the sales teams and and not allow for, an efficient marketing and operations plan?
Yes, so that's tough. So we at the moment go after, I guess, like mid-market, multi-jurisdictional organizations. And right now we don't really work with the entrepreneurial market, and we get some of those conversions. One strategy that's worked really well is to disallow free emails on the forms on the website. Now, with some of our services, actually, we do get good inquiries from those free emails. So we know, based on our own experience, we know which those are. So we leave those be and just weed out that kind of traffic as it comes in. But it has helped us significantly to not only disallow free email domains on the website, but also have a note that says these are the kind of customers that we work with. People don't always like to read. So as a backup, we also ask who they are, what kind of organization they are, and how big they are. And that helps us, even if they, make it through that gate, at least it helps us filter out right away, like straight away, we can tell if this is going to be a good fit or it's not going to be a good fit.
Right. That's some good strategies there that people can use to filter and give the sales teams the Glengarry leads, the good ones,
Yes,
to follow up on. You don't often see B2B or B2 charity companies focusing on video and on their YouTube channel, but your YouTube channel has some interesting content on there, including some ads as well as some tutorial type information. So, when you decide to create content for the YouTube channel, how do you go through the decision of whether to collaborate with an agency, whether to produce something in-house? It looked like you had a mix of stuff up there.
Yes, we did, because we're always thinking about the buyer's journey. So for a buyer that's a little bit along and they know who we are, maybe they know a little bit about what they need, but they just need more information, we do the blog videos, which we do internally. These are purely informational. We try to keep them under 2 minutes, just again, for attention span's sake. And then we also have the tutorials. But for branding, where we want to make a name for ourselves, let's say we're in a certain sector, people don't really know who we are. We do fun branding videos that are selling our service. There is a pitch in there, I swear, I promise. But we also, the goal is to entertain and educate and enlighten, but entertain and really get who we are as a company, not just our brand, but our people, like giving people an idea of what it's going to be like to work with us, with our reps, with operations, with our salespeople. So a lot of the videos we've done, and we've done 3 commercials or short films, however you want to say it. And that's really what we've been able to communicate. And I can get into each one of them if you'd like, but it was a lot of fun to work on. It was a lot of hard work. I learned a lot about the film industry, which I never thought I would, working in this industry and in this role. But it's been great for us in terms of brand recognition, lead generation, and we even won for the 3 videos. We won 11 media awards.
Congrats!
Which is a nice bonus. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, my favorite one was the Leave the Circus Behind spot that you had up on your YouTube video channel. And so as I was looking at it, I was trying to decide, was this 100% staff? Was this 100% actors? Was this a mix of actors and staff? And I got to really thinking about what was the creative process and how did you arrive at that? Because, and you'll have to tell me, are these sort of internal folks? Is this like a true representation of your staff, or did you end up using actors, or was there a mix?
So there was a mix. So all of the talking parts were by professional actors, but the non-speaking roles was our own people. And it ended up being great. But of course, you do a lot of these things when you have restrictions, right? We had a tight budget, and we were also very ambitious, both us and our partner, Prosper Digital. So we said, well, we'll get ourselves involved, not only the marketing team, but I also got members of the executive team involved, which they were very kind of like unsure about first, but at the end of the day, they really loved it. At the end of the 13-hour shoot, they really loved it. So just talking about, I mean, this was the first project like this I did. And it was great from start to finish. So I'll just tell you quickly how we went about it. First, internally, we did a brainstorming session with our own people. We invited people from different parts of the company as well, people that don't necessarily work on that service line. And then I also invited 3 of my friends from outside of the company from different industries, just to get a fresh perspective. And when we do our brainstorming, we have this zone that we call the green light zone, meaning anyone just kind of just spits out whatever it is that comes to their mind, following the prompt. You know, if I ask a question or if there's an exercise, don't worry about sounding stupid or wrong or whatever it is. And as a result, we had a lot of fun. And because of that, we came up with, so I had breaking everyone up into 2 teams, and we came up with a circus theme, a circus concept. So running a nonprofit without the proper support, without the proper compliance support, is like a circus. And we went and talked about, I don't know, elephants and lions and things like that. And I went to Prosper and I said, can we get elephants for this like tiny budget that we have? And they said, not so much. And I worked with them to bring the script to life. And again, we had this like plan of like shooting for 3 days, but just resources weren't there. So we just packed everything into a 13-hour shoot. Now, at that point, I had never done anything in film at all. I couldn't believe that it took 13 hours to shoot a 1-minute video. I was just stunned. And can you imagine, like, you know, shows like Game of Thrones, things like that, how long those things take. So I really just had, I mean, I always, you know, enjoy film, but I have a newfound respect for everybody in that industry, honestly. Anyway, so yeah, we had our own people. We were in makeup. We were in costume. I was in it. I think you asked if that was me.
Exactly. It looked like you, and I'm like, wait a minute. I think that's Tigist in the video. So
it was, and I got a quick coaching on how to act. And I said, I can't act. And they said, yes, you can. And they were just saying, you know, I had to look annoyed in one scene. I had to look happy. And then I had to look, you know, a different way or confused. And one person that came along with us and was in the commercial does acting on the side. And so he coached me and he said, just think about all the times you've been annoyed. Like think about a specific event that's happened that's annoyed you, that's made you happy, that's made you confused. And that helped a lot. So that was a lot of fun. Anyway, so we put it all together and we launched it, I think in 2018 or 2019, I'm not sure. And it was a great success. Everyone in our nonprofit space, our customers loved it. And they said, that's exactly how it feels right before the registration deadline. And it did help us with our branding and name recognition. We saw leads come in. The numbers were really, really great actually around that time. It wasn't just because of this video, it's because of other marketing and sales efforts as well. And and we won 3 awards for that. 2 communicator awards and 1 Telly award.
Great. Well, congrats on that. The other video that I liked was the 5-minute long process agent who saved my life video. And again, it's unusual for somebody to do long form content in a B2B context, and in particular in such a creative way. So that must have been quite the brainstorming meeting for that one as well.
Oh, yeah. So that one was also, you know, it was a bit challenging because at least in the nonprofit space, you can say, oh, people have maybe a sense of humor and then they have time to be entertained and laugh because it's kind of like the nonprofit space. But for this one, we were speaking to corporate lawyers and large international law firms. And I said, you know, I bet lawyers like to laugh too. So, and be entertained too. So it was really about, because we serve so many different verticals, we have to think about how we stay true to who we are as a company and as a brand. But of course, we have to accommodate the vertical. And then when we go into international markets, that's also something we have to accommodate the the country and culture of wherever we're at. And the way I thought about it is, if you're one person and you speak 4 different languages, you're still the same person, but when you're speaking those different languages, you take on different tonality, different maybe mannerisms. And so that's how we thought about it. We said, okay, we can still be ourselves. We can still be a little silly, but get the point across. The brainstorming session for this one, I used improv comedy techniques where I asked people to think about a problem that's costly, urgent, and confusing. Because in this space, in the process agent space, when an attorney needs a process agent, they need it yesterday. It's very urgent. They need it to close usually a multi-million or multi-billion-dollar deal, cross-border deal. Stakes are high. And it's a very nerve-wracking, can be, not always, a very nerve-wracking experience. So in the brainstorming session, I just had people think about not that specific problem, but any problem that could be that way. So what came out of that was kind of like a time machine. It's, if something awful happens, don't you wish you could just go back in time and prevent it from happening? So we took that theme, we took it to Prosper, and then we came up with this story, the story that you saw of the pygmy marmoset who was trying to find his way back home. And somehow we wove in the quest to get the right process agent. If you don't get the right process agent, this endangered pygmy marmoset, Victor, could lose his home forever. So, we pulled at the emotional strings as well. And then we also were able to give a shout out to a great organization that helps endangered species not be endangered, essentially. And we gave them a spot at the end of the video. Again, I give you very long answers to your question. But I love what I do. So you can always cut me off when it gets to be too much.
No, it's clear that you're passionate about it. I think that also manifests itself in the work that comes out of it. So it was unusually fun to watch that video, and I liked the surfer dude as well. I thought he was an interesting character development for the story. So obviously in marketing, we're trying to find the right audience at the right time with the right message, and so much of what you do is time sensitive. So the chances of you happening to catch that person right when they're having that problem are actually pretty low, because they have their entire year worth of work, and then maybe this happens 5 times a year, 10 times a year. And so, how have you sort of dealt with this sort of right message, right time, right audience, or is it really more about branding so that when they have that crisis, they flash back to the pygmy marmoset video, like, oh, I know who I have to call.
Yeah. They're like, why am I thinking of pygmy marmosets right now? And then they piece it together and there's Cogency Global. Yes, so it's both. So one thing that I've learned over the 6 years I've been here, so as a digital marketer, I said it's always digital. Everyone always consults Google for anything they need. But I have found that's not always the case. I mean, it is the case that most people live, at least our customers live online digitally, at either in their personal lives or professional lives. But there are some of our target audiences don't make their decisions based on what they see online or what like their behavior online. They rely on word of mouth. But for those folks, branding is still important. It's hard because you can't really measure the success of your branding, because they're not necessarily going to, even if like the salesperson or the operations person asks them, they may not really remember where they saw us or why they even called us in the first place. So there's that. But we do have, luckily, we do have a lot of segments that do live online. For me, what I found to be really successful has been paid search, and SEO, of course, the two go hand in hand. But paid search is great because PPC is not really advertising. It's basically you presenting targeted information right when someone needs it, because people will only search for something when they need it or when they're thinking about it. And if they see your ad, it's not like a billboard ad or a commercial. It's not intrusive. It's actually giving them something that they want. So that's been really successful for us. SEO, which means a lot of things, but content is very helpful as well. So that's better for the consideration stage when people aren't sure what they need, or if they're even considering us or wanting to go with Cogency Global. We have a lot of content. We showcase that we're very knowledgeable about the different industries that we work in. So it's helpful for that. So the short answer, I would say the digital channel is really important to find people at the moment of intent, right when they need something. We're there through digital channels, but there are certain service lines where we do have to rely heavily on sales, because it is kind of like a relationship kind of industry.
Right, right. Well, we always like to think at my Did It team always likes to think about all the channels and the extent to which we can either measure or guess the level of intent. And so even within search, different keywords and keyword phrases will have different levels of intent. And then once you move into social, once you move into retargeting, and each has its own different level of intent, and that's demonstrable based on conversion rates, right? So it's pretty easy to sort of work the math backwards. But you talked about branding and awareness, and you talked about SEO, which is more mid-funnel. So SEO is obviously a form of earned media, as is content marketing, PR, and digital PR. And so one of the challenges that a lot of marketers have is like, okay, I've got my budget. So how do I decide how to allocate it between paid media, where I know exactly what I get out when I put $1 or $10,000 in, versus SEO, which if I don't do it at all, obviously I lose the SEO battle, right? So I need to certainly invest there. Same thing with content marketing, digital PR, and traditional PR. So has there been a thought process that's worked for you to sort of come up with a way to allocate budget from that perspective?
Yes. I mean, it's difficult. Again, so earlier I said B2B and B2C are starting to look more alike, but where they are still different is that it is harder to measure ROI in the B2B space, because depending on your industry, sales cycles are probably longer. Sometimes they're super short, but they're longer. I mean, sometimes if they're years long, how you have to decide like how to measure that. And some things will probably fall through the cracks. So it is hard, and it's even hard setting up that infrastructure internally to follow someone from stranger to customer. So I think you know a little bit about that. But if you've done all that, first, congratulations, because that's really hard. But once you've set that up, obviously you'll spend more money, invest more on the channels that are producing more revenue. If you don't have that information, don't be discouraged, because you can see which channels are bringing in most of the conversions. And now conversions, they could be crap conversions, they could be good conversions. But the solution here is to have a good relationship with your salespeople and with operations or whoever the leads are going to. So you have like a feedback loop. So even though you don't know exactly in terms of dollars, how many, these 50 conversions brought in this month, if your salespeople are saying, oh, the leads that have been coming in from the website lately have been really good, what have you guys been doing? I mean, this isn't ideal. You want to be able to quantify everything. But what I'm saying is, if you're still on that journey and you don't have that ROI model fixed in place yet, I would say having a good relationship with whoever you're handing the lead off internally, and having a communication that goes both ways is really helpful in that way. And going back, you also have to study your target market to see where they live. Is it not just online, but do they come in through paid? Do they come in organically? The goal should always be to have them come organically. I know, and I don't know if people say this anymore, but I know people say organic traffic is free, but of course nothing is free in this life. Ultimately, you're you're hiring an entire marketing team, agencies or whatever it is to get that organic traffic, and you have to keep it going. But it is cheaper and it is more sustainable than paid traffic. And I always think the goal, even using the paid search channel, should be to increase the flow and the volume that starts with organic. And we've seen that happen with some of our campaigns, and that's been really encouraging. It also means that our branding campaigns are helping, and people trust, the results enough on the search, on the SERP, to click on our listing instead of someone else.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the strategies we've been using for about 5 years on the sort of SEO and digital PR side of things is to try to own as much of the SERP as possible. Right? Many SEOs really focus exclusively on the domain of the client or their own domain if they're in-house. Yeah. And, one of the reasons we bought 3 PR agencies that did it was because, they know how to storytell and they know how to get the placements, which may end up being very positive placements and may show up right next to your brand in the SERP for particular keywords. So you're one click away on those, but at least you're, the more you can dominate the search engine results page and have your competitors not be there, right, the better it is for you. So it's really become much more holistic. I think the entire earned media channel has become much more holistic in the last 5 or 6 years in particular.
Yeah, and I do think, there's like the barriers between, people that do SEO, paid, social, even within the organization is kind of like melting away, where they're more collaborative. And that's what we're doing too. And that's the direction we're moving in, for the reason that you just listed, that I do see, and I know at some point this was debated, but I do see some social results in Google searches. So it's good to have that developed as well. And of course, if you have, especially your branded SERP, you want to have only you there. I mean, your competitors are probably going to bid on your brand name. They might slip in every now and again, but the goal, at least for the branded SERP, is just to completely dominate it.
Absolutely. As you're planning for next year, are there any things that have you particularly excited, either channels you want to try or things you want to double down on for next year's marketing?
Yes. So now that we've had all this fun with the branding videos, we are going to focus more on the mid-funnel strategy. So we did that before. We did it at the same time when we were doing kind of the branding work. So we're going to focus on that. We're going to focus on better feedback loops internally, so that we have a robust ROI machine, because that is, again, the sales cycles of our different services are so different. Some are a day, a few hours, others are 2 years. So we're trying to build a system that can kind of like contain these and give us dashboards and reports that make sense to us. So right now we're doing a lot of that, I guess, unglamorous work, which hopefully at the end will give us glamorous dashboards and reports to look at.
Great. Well, thanks so much for joining me. I look forward to seeing the continued journey, and maybe the next phase of the Pygmy Marmoset series will come out as well.
Victor is not gone yet. He'll be making a comeback at some point.
Had a feeling that he was going to be a star.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great.
Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Kevin Lee's Power Marketing is available on all your favorite podcast networks. Kevin loves helping businesses excel at marketing. Having marketing challenges? Just like Santa in The Miracle on 34th Street, if Kevin can't help you, he'll know someone who can. Find him on LinkedIn, subscribe, or follow.